This is episode 3 of 10 in our brilliant series, 100 Most Commonly Mispronounced Words in the English Language, as before and as always from the point of view of the non-native speakers like you and me, and in which the emphasis will continue to be on the everyday words rather than the fancy but the rarely used sorts. And I will reiterate today, as I have done in the past, that an exercise such as this one ought to be helpful not just for the beginner, but also for the intermediate and advanced speakers, because it could be that, we're taking some of these words for granted, and it might help to discover that, maybe we are actually mispronouncing some of these words for no other reason but because perhaps we've been habituated to say it in a certain way. So just on that basis, I hope it's helpful. Now, in this episode, we will cover 10 words 21 through to 30. So let's dive into it and see where we get to. The first word on the screen today is academic. Academic, so relating to education, colleges, being scholarly, scholastic, essentially somebody who is bookish or an intellectual or studious, in contrast to somebody with practical knowledge, skills, and experience. So used in sentences, Einstein wasn't very academic, yet he's considered to be one of the greatest minds that ever lived. Or MIT is known more for its academic reputation rather than for its athletic excellence. What you don't want to say is academic. You don't want to say academic. So you don't want to talk about MIT being an academic institution or somebody's academic qualifications. It is academic, like you see it on the screen here, academic. And 4 syllables, right? And the stress principally is on the 3rd syllable here, right? And then secondarily on the 1st syllable. So it should sound like this, academic. Academic, not academic. Similar sounding words are photogenic, epidemic, and paramedic. Word number 22 is pathology. Pathology is just that branch of medical science that looks into the study of diseases, so forensic pathology. Or he owned a chain of pathology labs, or the pathology of depression and bipolar syndrome that are discussed extensively in the latest edition of the medical journal. So pathology, right? You don't want to say pathology, or some variant of that, right? So you'd agree that that sounds pretty ridiculous. Pathology, meaning ridiculous, a word you want to know the meaning of, but also use sparingly. So again, coming back, pathology, not pathology, or some other variant. If you look at the screen here, again, 4 syllables, the emphasis coming here on the 2nd syllable to sound like this, pathology, in the manner of technology, psychology, biology. Actually, remember biology from episode 2, right? So if you recollect, it was biology and not biology. So just a little bit of reinforcement there. Word number 23 is content, right? So content as in items and things that are contained within something. So like table of contents in a book, avocado, though rich in fat content, is still good for you. Or each content in the house was exquisite. And, some other usage of that word like content marketing or the contents of your speech and so on. So anyway, so far so good, right? The trouble arises because this word also has a different meaning, as several words in the English language tend to do, and that means to be happy with life and satisfied. So he felt most content at home, right? So if you notice, the pronunciation on that is totally different. So this is content and that is content, right? What we tend to do is we trip up a little bit and we say content to describe or use it in this context. So we end up sounding like this, table of contents in a book, or avocado being rich in fat content, or content marketing, and that is not correct, right? So it should be content just like it is here. If you actually remember our inaugural episode, we had looked at the word comment, and if you remember, it was comment, not comment. And so similarly, it is content and not content, right? So words and phrases reasonably identical to the sound pattern are complement, to a great extent, pay the rent, content. Excellent. So the word in front of you is word number 24, elite. right? Elite as in the political, cultural, social elite of a society or country. These are the most intelligent, influential, the powerful, and the rich. So being able to attend an Ivy League college seems to be a prerogative for America's elite. An elite group of companies control most of the world's natural resources. So it's either elite, it is not elite. It is not elite. And you'd be surprised how many of us actually say elite when saying this word, right? So, and that would be just totally incorrect. So, get over this way of saying it, elite, if that is in fact how you are saying it. So, it wouldn't be an elite group, or you wouldn't be referring to America's elite, right? So, it's elite. So, like there. Okay. Similar sounding words are complete, swimming meet, whiskey neat. So whiskey neat is just whiskey as is without water, ice, or any other mixture. A little bit of a digression there, but I'm sure you wouldn't mind that. Okay, word number 25 is premise. Premise is this the basis of an argument, the logic of that supporting argument. It's a proposition, a hypothesis. So he started from the premise that he was always right. Interesting fellow, right? He didn't accept the basic premise that all human beings are good at heart. Now, pretty simple, right? Except a lot of us will say premise. So it'll sound like this. He started from the premise that, or he didn't accept the basic premise that all human beings are good at heart. And premise is just a terrible, terrible way to say it. So please don't say it like that. It's as simple as it looks, just premise, the emphasis coming here on the first syllable in this two-syllable word. Similar sounding words and expressions. So tennis, Venice, Dennis, the menace. Excellent. Word number 26 is lingerie. Women's intimate apparel, underwear, nightwear, lingerie, department at Selfridges, or I have yet to come across a girl who would tend to like good lingerie, sleepwear, cosmetics, fragrance, and so on. So like that, right? Lingerie. And this tends to be traditionally the American way of saying it. The Brits, however, prefer to put the emphasis on the first syllable here, so it sounds something like this. Lingerie, right? So lingerie and lingerie. Now, you wouldn't think anybody would mispronounce this word. I mean, men at least. But, you might just fall off your chair if I tell you that an exceedingly common way to mispronounce this word is literally to say lingerie, right? And that would just be embarrassing to you as well as to the person hearing you say it that way. So I can assure you, you're not going to get too far if you say lingerie. It's lingerie or lingerie, right? And there are words in the English language that require that extra flourish. This is one of those words that you don't want it to sound too plain, right? So I don't mind that you supply that extra flourish in this case. So it's lingerie. Okay. Excellent. Word number 27. It's a nice and healthy word. Almond, right? So this is just the dry fruit with a brown skin growing on little trees with pink flowers. Almond. It's not almond or almond, right? So essentially you don't want to produce that L sound. You can pretty much neglect this L sound here. So almond, right? So 5 almonds a day is what the doctor recommended. He was smitten by her almond-shaped eyes. So, like you see it on the screen, almond. Excellent. So word number 28 is relative. Relative is just a family member, blood relative who generally doesn't live with you. So you wouldn't say your mom is your relative because your mom is just your mom, as is your dad. But let's say a cousin who lives in another city would be your relative. So God gave us good friends to make up for some of the nasty relatives we always end up with. Oh, my relative in Tokyo is getting married next month. Now, no one would mispronounce it, you wouldn't think, considering how many relatives we all have. But a common way to mispronounce this word, believe it or not, is to say relative. Relative. I mean, come on, seriously. You might actually hurt their feelings if you say relative, especially the ones that live in London, New York, Toronto, and Sydney, right? So it's like this here, relative, relative. It's not my relative in Tokyo or nasty relatives, right? So it's relative like you see it here on the screen, the emphasis on the first syllable of this three-syllable word. So relative, non-competitive, native, chief, executive. Word number 29 is debris. Debris is just, what remains from a destructive incident like a fire, an explosion, earthquake, bombing, and so on. So they couldn't pull out the young soldier in time from the debris of the buildings following the air raid. There was a separate bin for all the garden debris so they could be used for compost. What it shortly is not is debris. Debris. So never ever under any circumstances produce this S sound here, right? So it's never debris. It is debris, which tends to be the American way of saying it, like you see it here, where the emphasis is on the second syllable, so debris. The Brits, however, like to kind of say it in this way, right? So debris or debris. Okay, so it's never debris, it's debris, debris, debris. Similar sounding words are bee, sweet pea, English, breakfasty, debris. Okay, we are on word number 30 on our illustrious list of words for today. So the word is colleague, like a person that you work with, especially in a profession or a business, like a co-worker, teammate, workmate. My colleague Elon Musk and I are working hard to put a man or woman in Mars. There you go again with Elon Musk. Another example, one day my American colleague asked me if I'd want to go to the football game with her. Now, it's insane how many of us will say colleague. So my colleague Elon Musk, or one day my American colleague, or his colleagues gave him a grand welcome party. And I'll tell you, that sounds like a little disaster to me, and I hope it will to you as well in time, if this is how you're currently saying this word, colleague. So it's not colleague, please, it is colleague, just like that, like here, colleague. So in the manner of intrigue, fatigue, and league. Okay, to recap, stated correctly, the 10 words that we covered today in episode 3 are academic, pathology, content, elite, premise, lingerie, almond, relative, debris or debris, and colleague. So there you have it. Well done. Stay the course, or citizen of the world, and practice, and practice out loud. Actually, I can't say it enough times. So really, I'm not kidding. I hope you will, because there is no way around that. Good luck. Please show us some love and like this video and subscribe to our channels, as we're working hard to come up with more cool and relevant stuff for you. And keep the comments, both good and not so good, coming. It will be encouraging for us, the good ones at least. And as for the rest, well, what will not kill us will only make us stronger. Remember, we are from the Break.Through Language and Communication Lab. Breakthrough, as you might know, is the meaning of that word is to become successful at something after a lot of hard work and toil. So happy breakthrough to you. And depending on where and at what time you're tuning into this video, from whichever glorious part of the world you happen to be in, here's wishing you good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Thank you for listening. Ciao, ciao.